Welcome everyone to another premium session. So today we're going to have a quick look at the markets and see what's going on. But then I wanted to go into some details about taking profit on spot and also invalidation levels for spot. Something a little bit different, but something that's very important when investing. So we'll just jump over into the charts. We'll start Bitcoin. So we've seen some volume come into the market as we started to approach the resistance trend line from above. Let's go to the 4-hour time frame here. So this trend line is just from the range top of 72k from about 2 weeks ago. Following it down, we poked through, had some nice volume come in, but it doesn't seem to be sustained volume, and now it's closed back below. That's not the best of situations that we wanted. The reason being is because now we're starting to get towards the end of the pointy end of the triangle, because we've also got this ascending trend line as well, which suggests that maybe we're not finished just yet to the downside. And it does make sort of sense, because we have just started a new month, so we do need to sort of get that wick to the downside out of the way to begin with. But we can always be hopeful that we're just going to have a very small wick to the downside and it's going to take off. But at the moment, it doesn't look like that is going to be the case. We're likely to down and test these lows that are over here around that 66k level. As you guys know, I do have a nice little target down here at 64.5. But given that we are coming towards the end of the triangle, I think that the decision into what direction is going to be coming fairly soon. In any case, the big picture is still up. It's just a matter of, all right, we're just going to have a pit stop down here and bounce up, or at this 50% level at 66k and go up, something like that. So that's what we're looking for Bitcoin. I did post that chart yesterday. So we've got these two tops here that are relatively the same. That's all got the line in between them. That's going to be the first level of resistance to the upside. And then we've got the all-time high as well. They're the two major levels that we want to see pushing through to then going on to all-time highs again. I'll just jump into NIA real quick, because that's something that everyone loves. I think we had someone join us. Gabe Aldrich, good to see you, mate. I'll just give it a very quick rehash for you for Bitcoin. We saw some volume come into the market here when we're testing this trend line, but we've broken back down below. So it wasn't sustained. Sort of suggests to me that having a small wick to the downside wasn't enough. I'm going to come down and test these lows again. But I think the downside is only going to be short term before it starts pushing up again. And we're just going to jump into NIA and have a look at what's going on. So I'll clean this up a bit. And NIA is still looking all right at the moment. We're above the 50% level at $6.30. It's playing ball at the moment, just mainly a bit of sideways. We did see a little bit of a pump over the weekend, but it was also then heavily rejected. We can't trust the weekend pumps. So that was a Saturday pump, Sunday dump, and sideways trading. It's not really moving out of sync at the moment, but it's holding up okay. Now, Belgium did ask to look at NEAT, so I wonder if not meat. I wonder if we can get a chart up for it. Yeah. Okay. So we've had a bit of a pump here. Might go out to a daily. Looks very pump and dumpy for me. But, as long as where it is at the moment, we had the pump about a week. retraced probably around 60% of the wick, and now it's sort of going up again. So that's looking okay, I think. It would have been worse if we got something similar to what happened over here. But it did have a nice consolidation period. So I think at the moment for me, it's holding. I'll get my little drawing tool out. So we want to see these highs from this range here hold as support. We don't want to see the price sort of get below that range. And then we also want to see the high from the pump get taken out. We don't want to just fill, say, 3/4 of it and then it starts to fade a bit. Definitely don't want to see that because then it's just going to fall back down. We want to see it tackle it, get above it, and then the next level is going to be this high over here. So that's what I'm sort of looking at for neat at the moment. I know very little about neat. I'm assuming it's highly speculative. So, trade at your own peril. But if you got in down here, definitely be considering taking a little bit of profit off the table. Maybe take out your initials and then just have a bit of a moon bag and ride that out. ORDI was the other one. ORDI's, I didn't look at the chart necessarily, but I did have a bit of a look at ORDI the other day, and I thought it was struggling quite a bit. And this just sort of proves that it is. So we had this pump up here, and we've fallen back below. Now we've got a big resistance zone ahead. Nearly it has to 2x to get above the range. It probably can do that, but it does have a bit of baggage in front of it. At the moment, you could, if we were to zoom in on, say, a 1 hour time frame, you could say that potentially it's putting in a bit of a double top over here. So initially, what we want to see, I'll just delete some of this, and we can even get a fib going. The 50% level is a bit inverted, but it's okay. But for ORDIs, we could see it get up to this 50% level. There's a lot of resistance, like we talked about on the left-hand side. And with also that being a high time frame, 50% level, I don't think it'll get through on the first attempt. So maybe it comes back down to 50. And then on the second attempt, it can get up and go over, something like that. When you look at where it's come from, it's sort of come from nothing. I think that must be when it launched, $5. So it is looking okay. I don't think that this would be something that I'd be keen on getting into at the moment. There's probably very little that I would be getting into at the moment besides perhaps near, even uni. But at the same time, I'm not actively looking for coins to sort of jump into right now either. I'm also looking for exit strategies, riding out the wave that we're in of wave 5, and also setting myself up for the next market cycle. Now, we'll move into invalidation. So I'm gonna cover invalidation and taking profit on 2 coins. We'll use Bitcoin and NIA for this. The reason why I want to do it over 2 coins is Bitcoin and NIA should be your approach should be a little bit different, similar but different. Mainly because Bitcoin's obviously the market leader and NIA is an altcoin. And even when you start getting into the more speculative assets like Sweat or even some of those micro caps that are sub 10 mil, it even changes again a little bit. But I'll go into details for that. So maybe we'll see if we can get a chart that doesn't have all my scribble all over it. A bit FMX. Sweet. All right. So for me right now, we'll go to monthly chart. Get a 50% level going. So for me, my invalidation level for Bitcoin is 44K. It gets below 44K and gets a close on a weekly, then I'd be looking to exit my position. I know it's a long way down and you're losing a lot of gains, but it's still of my mind that there's still more upside to come, and that's sort of my safe level, I suppose. For me, my average entry into Bitcoin's about 23K. So getting out below 44K, 40K or something to that effect, I'm still going to be making profit on it. So it's sort of happy days. But that's and I like things simple as well. So that for me is really simple, really easy level to manage. Whereas if you go into, and I'll get a fresh chart up for NIA. Use this one. So for NIA, it would be getting down to this $3.70 level. It's getting below this low that was set here at $4.20. We can even chuck a 50% level in here. So the 50% is sitting at $5. I think as you start getting into the alt market, you need to be a little bit more lenient. If it was to start getting down to this zone, I'm going to be probably making about a 20% loss on my investment on NIA. But as you start going down the asset tree, your risk has to increase because your potential reward also increases. I'm not going to write it to zero because that's just risking your entire investment strategy, and that doesn't really work. We can also go out to the weekly, and that can give us a little bit more insight as well. Now, you could even say, rather than $3.80, you could say your stop loss, or not stop loss, but your invalidation is getting below that wick there. And that's as simple as it is for invalidation, for me at least anyway. I don't want to keep it complex because once you start keeping it complex, then you might start negotiating with yourself if there is a bit of a downturn. I'll just let it go a little bit more. I'll just let it go a little bit more. Whereas it's like, nah, gets below here, I'm looking to exit. Then we can go into different ways to take profit. I might just jump. G'day, Ringo. Good to see you, mate. Um, all right. So I did post this up. I'm not sure if you guys have had a chance to have a look at it. But essentially, there's a few different ways of doing it. And I posted up a simple strategy. It's a martingale or pyramid strategy. And this is a similar type of strategy you can use to enter into a position. So essentially, you identify the levels of where you think price is going to end up, and you ladder out of the position. The higher it gets within that triangle that you set, the more that you sort of take profit. As you can see in this example, I've actually got a smaller percentage at the top than what I do at the one just below. I think it's 25% at the top and 40% at that 618 level. That's because based on this take profit that chart that I've posted up here, that 618 level is actually a target for me within that range. So I'm more weighted to taking more profit at that level. And if it goes above to the trend line, well, I've still got some left over to finish up taking profit there. Then we've also got this one here, which is a bit more, it's scaled a bit better. And so what I've done is I've identified that I think that the top's going to come sort of between December and March. So I've got the vertical blue line there. I'm highly unlikely to take profits before that blue line unless my invalidation levels get met. Otherwise, that's when I'm going to start looking to take profit after that point. And so we can either use this sort of strategy where you set up your pyramid at the target zones, or there is other ways that you can do this, and we'll just get into a Bitcoin chart. Okay, this one's not there. BTC. So as we enter the fifth wave, and this does eventually start breaking out, we're going to be getting lots of straight up movement with minor pullbacks. We might get some deeper pullbacks, but they're going to be extremely short lived, and it's just going to continue moving in that upwards direction. Once we see a heap of volume come in at the top, well, what would appear to be the top, but the move up doesn't seem to be as great as what these previous moves are, that suggests that there's a lot more sellers stepping into the market, because you're seeing a spike in volume, but the price isn't correlating with that as it had been for the last 2-3 months beforehand. So that could be one indicator that you use to say, oh, I need to start looking to sell now. And what else you can look for on the smaller time frames? So say on like a daily, when it comes down and then it'll come up and doesn't quite get above that prior high, and then maybe puts in a lower low. A little bit similar to what we saw over here. I might go to a daily because it should show it a little bit better. So as we can see over here, we got some pretty big candles, and the volume was increasing. And then as we got here, the volume was still quite similar to what we had over here, but the candles were getting smaller. So that means that we've got sellers stepping into the market. And then as we get to top, volume is still quite similar range to what we had on the way up, but now we're starting to see some red. Now I got the sellers are really starting to step in, and we've got this move up, and then it comes down, and now we got getting the lower high starting to form now before it goes down. So you can wait for this move to occur, watching the candles, watching the volume, and then exit in this distribution phase. We can go back and see what happened last time. So last time really didn't get, in the last cycle, really didn't get a lot of notice. It made its high, heavily rejected, and then a little bit of sideways before it then hit the bear market. A warning sign that this was going to occur was actually this top over here back in October, because that was heavily rejected, and then it went sideways. What would have caught people off guard is that it actually made a higher high before it then went away. But this little selling spot here, if you sold during there and just left the market, that wouldn't have been a bad thing either. I mean, you're still getting 59 to 63K for your Bitcoin back then, and pumped up another 10% before it capitulated into the bear market. But that's why it's important also to have your time. If you had this marked that, say, from September, I'm going to start looking to exit the market, then you might have sold in these lows over here. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. You basically sold the top still, in my opinion. And this is what I was trying to allude to. Let me just clean some of this up. So we can see during this period, it's virtually up with some little pullbacks until it gets to this period, and then it really chops sideways. It's a sign of the last wave is coming to an end, because you don't have this parabolic move anymore. We can see, I might have to go out to a weekly chart. This is a massive correction over here from the March, April highs, 65K, huge correction down and then back up. But you can see how you got that parabolic move, correction, parabolic move, and then it's all over. My preference is to use a combination of waiting for this to occur, or actually this looks a bit better, the distribution to occur, and using the pyramid scheme. I mean, you can use both. And with Bitcoin in this cycle, I'm really keen to see where Bitcoin's at come around that October, November period. If we're in October, November, and we're at around, I don't know, 110K, something like that, then I'm probably of the mindset that this chart here, with the targets up at around that 170K mark, are probably fairly unlikely to occur. I'd probably really want to see Bitcoin at around that 130K level, 140K by that November period. However, if Bitcoin's down at that 100K level, something to that effect, then I think that this strategy is going to be a lot better to play with, because the topping out part can take for 4 weeks, it can take 6 weeks, something like that. It can take a bit of time. It's unlikely to be an overnight wick to the top and then a full blown capitulation down. It's taken 4 years to get to this point. And we'll move into. Oh, we got someone talking. Sorry, he can wait. I want to see if there's any comments in here. Yeah, the updraft can be the scary part, and when it comes to alts, it's very much up to the individual, and how comfortable they are, because you can start feeling super degenerative during the alt pumps, and you don't want to be stuck getting too early, but at the same time you don't want to miss out. I'll just jump into one. So for alts, you use the exact same strategy. You can have your target level, but the problem is with alts is that it's a bit harder to have your target level, because they are so heavily correlated to what's going on with Bitcoin. So you're probably more likely. Actually, we might use Solana actually. So you get less time with the alts, as we can see with Solana back here. Peaked out and then it was over. That was when Bitcoin originally broke through to that 66K level, I think it was. And it went up significantly more than what Bitcoin did from its high. And then went really for Solana, if you got out anywhere in this range here, you should be happy with how you played the game. But it's a huge range because down here we got $135 all the way up to $260. But that's the game with the alts. I mean, if you sold the top of this wick, you're doing pretty damn good to keep your nerves at bay and wait for the Pico top. But as you can see how volatile it is, don't be upset if you got out down here. You saw this big run up, essentially came from $20 on this Coinbase chart. We don't have the rest of the chart. Came from $20, heaps of weeks going up, and then it's rejected. And you sold here, and then you would have seen it go up. You just got to ignore it. But like the bear's going to come, it's going to retrace back. But what's interesting with alts is like Solana peaked when Bitcoin peaked. But there is some alts that waited. Trying to think of a good example. Might go into Sand. And so Sand was about 3 weeks later after Bitcoin peaked. All the gaming tokens peaked. 3 weeks, 4 weeks later. The same sort of deal. You ride this up, got up to $8.50, and then retraced back to $4. So if you sold between $8.50 and $4, I'd be saying you did pretty good. I mean, you're buying back here under $1. It's just so hard to nail these tops. That's why it can be good to have a pyramid scheme, but at the same time, your pyramid for Sand might have been down here at $2.50, which still would have been it could have been a 10x from where you got in. If you were buying back here at 20 cents, I'm happy with a 10x. I'm going to sell at $2.50, which ends up being here, and you miss this entire move. It's good to wait for these moves to happen, but it is a bit of a fine line of, all right, well, when's it coming? When's this big move coming? Did it just happen, or did it not happen? And we can go into the dailies to have a closer look. Okay, so we've met massive volume here, but then we have this similar volume the following day, but the price didn't continue up. So that sellers have really stepped in. We've got 3 reds. I'm sure you guys saw what I was posting about Bitcoin making 3 reds at the range highs. This is obviously on a big cycle basis, but made its 3 reds. Volumes tapering off. Got a green day. Didn't get above these highs, and then you got another 3 reds, and it's all game over. So looking at this, you might have been able to get out between say $6 and $7.50. But it's just waiting for that last final move to sort of happen before you start getting out of the game. And even if you're holding on and it's got down here, got a second chance to get out with the lower high over in this period. But for me, alt's definitely a tricky one. um, I'd I'd be highly suggestive that I'll be exiting my Bitcoin positions before I do my alts, although the alts won't be too far behind. And some of them, depending on how their run is, like if they look like that they've been doing a run like this and then they start correcting similar to how Bitcoin's correcting, I'd be exiting them probably at the same time as well. Um, I might jump into Sweat just quickly and we can have a look at invalidations for Sweat. Sweat is not doing great. So for Sweat, realistically, this here is probably an invalidation level. I might see what I can get a cleaner chart up. So realistically, looking at the chart, these lows that are over here should really be invalidation levels because it's just fallen bearish back below there. But yeah, like I was saying earlier, you need to be a bit more forgiving with the smaller caps, but at the same time, if you wanted to have a tight invalidation, that would have been it. These lows was coming back below it. You then have to fight all this resistance, all this prior price action to get back up. And whilst it may just mean that come the end of the bull market, it gets to 2 cents or 2.5 cents or something because it's had to take so much more time fighting this prior resistance and price action to get up there. Whereas something that's got a bit of clean air, it doesn't have all this baggage to sort of push through. And even on the Bitcoin chart, made a new low almost 2 weeks ago. Today's candle's not looking great either. We're still below the June lows of last year. And so it's got its entire trading range of baggage against Bitcoin to start getting above. Look, I'm still still a bag holder. I'm not selling my bag of Sweat, but I definitely have scaled back my position. I'm done scaling with it. But that's an example of with a smaller cap. I think Sweat's around that 50, 60 mil market cap at the moment. But yeah, that's an example of a smaller cap where you'd have to be a little bit more. What's going on here? Yeah, you got to be a little bit more generous with them. Give them a bit more time, a bit more breathing space, and hope that they just go bazinga and start heading straight up. I'll see if there's any questions. Yeah, it's good to have those targets, Baldrick. I think it's also good though to be watching the charts and just have and sometimes it might not reach target level, so you got to adjust with the market too. If it starts getting to December and near is still around that $11-12 mark, well, there might not be a whole lot of fuel left in the tank, especially if you start seeing a bit of selling pressure come into Bitcoin and you're starting to see the similar sort of thing with NIA. It might be time to consider changing that exit strategy a little bit, rather than sitting back and waiting for $20 or $30 or whatever it might be, or maybe taking. Yeah, I get that. Um, it's good to have targets. I think it's important to also be able to put the targets aside, and just be watching the charts and say, right, this thing's not gonna, it's unfortunately not gonna get there, or oh, there's a bit more fuel in the tank. My target was $30. It looks like it's gonna carry on to $80 because it's hit $30 in, I don't know, October, and we've still got more time in the market. So maybe I'm going to move my targets a bit. Well, it's good to speculate and have those price targets, but it's also, you need to also sort of have your head in the game and be watching what's going on. Yeah, definitely a suggestion. Definitely a suggestion. Um, I won't be selling an entire bag in one hit unless it's an invalidation. Taking profits at the top. Yeah, I'm not about nailing the Pico top. It's just about getting out around the top. Can be within 25% of the top. I just want to get out, make my money, and wake up in the morning having breakfast, not thinking far out. What could that have been? Or I wish I took profit sooner. So, and it comes down to what are you comfortable with doing? What's your abilities as well? Like, are you able to set limit orders? Yeah, I suppose one thing though to be mindful of is being able to put yourself in a position to be able to sell um, whenever it is you think that the top of the market's going to come, or that sort of final last month or two of the market is going to come. Um, And what do I mean by that? That could mean ensuring that tokens that you have aren't locked, staking that you've got a exit plan in the way of an exchange that you're going to use to sell your tokens. Coming up with a plan B in case you're using or you need to use non KYC exchanges. So what happens if that exchange all of a sudden enforces KYC? What's your plan B? Where are you going to go? Um, are you going to exchange your USD straight back into your native currency if you're not from America? Or are you going to sit in USD? There's a lot of different ways to just a lot of different ways to, I suppose, finish up the cycle. Are you looking to take your profits and walk away from the market and sort of take a bit of a break through the bear market, or are you going to be staying in the game a little bit and studying coins that have come out new towards the end of this bull cycle that might do really good next cycle? Um, are you going to look to short the market on the way down? There's a lot of different things that should be considered, and you should probably be thinking about now. I think one of the big ones for me is I think one of the big ones for me is if you're looking to maintain a presence in the market for coming cycles, it's good to always hang around and see what coins are performing really well towards the end. Particularly those new coins that you may not have heard of before. Like I remember seeing Render come to the market at the end of the last cycle, and it was doing really good. I think it came into the market around $3. It got up to about $6, 6.50, something like that, and then it capitulated down. And so I was like, that one's going to be a bit of a market watch. Unfortunately, I didn't bag any at the lows, and by the time it took off, I thought that it's a bit too late for me. But um, I do regret that. We all have learning, so for me, that's something I'm going to be doing is watching what's performing really well at the end, and conversely, what has a really bad bear market and capitulates like bananas, but capitulates with Bitcoin, because they're the ones I'm going to be looking to potentially start bagging up. So, sorry, there's a lot of info, and I've probably been rambling quite a bit. I don't have Simon here to rein me in a bit. But did anyone have any questions? I don't think we're probably due for I don't think we're going to have an alt season like we saw necessarily in the last cycle. The dominance has got a lot. It's not anywhere near as high as what it got last cycle, so it's got a shorter distance for it to fall. That's a good question, Baldrick. I don't think I've really come across too many, if any, that have sort of capitulated before Bitcoin. They're normally at the same time or after. And I was having a bit of a look the other day, and I can't for the life of me remember which coin it was, but there was one that peaked like 2-3 months after Bitcoin peaked. So yeah, I think it's more of a case of, well, if it's capitulating before, then it's probably been a victim of a hack or something to that effect, which you're not going to see coming. It's probably the only. It's yeah, I'd say it's not. It's an exception for something to capitulate beforehand. Yeah, 100%. That's right. That's right. The reason for that is it's a blue chip, so all the money is in Bitcoin, and once people are thinking, all right, it's peaked now, we need to get out of it, or the big boys are getting out of it, they then move into the next speculative assets. It's the same thing happens in the stock market as well. We see the big stocks are doing all the moves, and you look at the Russell 2000, and I haven't for a little while, so I hope I'm not wrong here. But you look at the Russell 2000, and it's lagging, it's struggling because the Russell 2000 is like the altcoin market. 95% of the time, the SP 500 will outperform the Russell 2000, and that's the same as Bitcoin and the alt market. Bitcoin's going to outperform the alt market 95% of the time, but then there's that 5% of the time when the alts just go bazinga, and yeah, the degen shows on. And the reason for that is because those blue chip assets have peaked. They've reached their top. People don't think they're worth any more than that, so then they look for something that's provides a bit more value to them. And because those alts or small caps have not grown as much in value, they become the new speculation. Ah, no worries, mate. The important thing is not to get caught up in the hype. I definitely have, and I've been caught on the wrong side of a cycle, um, buying the dips in the early parts of a bear market, and that's probably my biggest aim with starting the Dutch server, is to not allow people to get caught in that situation, because it can be absolutely terrible. You know, you're buying stuff. I think Solana was one that I bought last cycle on the way down. Paid like $200 and $180 for Solana, and then I was fortunate enough to get out at about 150 because I did have invalidation. But if I'd ridden that all the way down to $10, it's just mental. But there's people out there that are shilling buy the dip, and you'll see it come this bear market. Um, you know that they're going to be shilling that this is the best opportunity to get into crypto, but it's not. And even if you're entering the market now, it's starting to get a little bit. There's not a lot of time left. I hope you're ready to sell in, 6 to 8 months time. This isn't a. It's not a market that you can buy now and hold for 3 years or 2 years, because it's probably unlikely that the price is going to be at its current level in 2 years' time. It's good to hear, Baldric. I'm glad that I've had a positive effect on yourself. Nice, nice one. it's always good. I always feel good when I get feedback like this because it is difficult to know if what I'm talking about and often rambling about is of interest, or is sort of touching on what you guys want to learn about, need to learn about. So to get that sort of feedback, it's really good. Sounds good. All right, guys. Well, I think that probably draws us to a bit of a close for this week's session. A little bit different, but something that I think we definitely needed to touch on. If there's anything that you guys want me to look at specifically for next week in the realm of TA or teachings that aren't really related to a recap of the markets, please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to go over it. Yeah. Until then, stay safe and enjoy the volatility that looks to be coming this week. All right. See you guys. Bye.